Game started.
Okay, Foy 2010 from Mexico. Let's try e4 again, I guess. e4, e5. What are we going to do? Okay, well, let's see. I did a Rui Lopez last time. Let's go back to the old Italian game. Bishop e7. That's one of the unusual responses. I think it's called the Hungarian defense. There's no pressure put on the e-pawn, so you can castle and defend it with the rook. And still have time to play h3 to prevent the pin on the knight, and then build up with c3 and d4. So that's the plan here. It's not that it's a bad move, it just doesn't put any pressure on white, so white's free to just continue with this plan. And yeah, I don't want to allow the pin of the bishop. I don't know if technically this is the correct move anymore, but this is the idea. And if you'd done the knight first, I would do the rook first, and we'd done the, and then when he moves the pawn, play h3. So you can get to this position from either move order, and then there's nothing in the way of stopping me from playing d4 here and getting a big center. So I will do that. The only thing you watch out for is if black plays rook e8, bishop f8, then he's got a rook on the e file, and then this pawn might become weak with the rook and the knight hitting it. But he hasn't done that, so it's safe to play d4. And then after I have my pawns established in the center, I'll try and get my other pieces in the game. If he takes, then that opens up the square knight c3 for this knight. I don't have to go to d2 and do this kind of maneuver to get it into the game. It can participate in the game from c3. So this should be, you know, slight edge for white. This kind of position. Just better center control and development. So now where does the bishop want to go? There's not really a threat on f2 anymore, f7, because it's defended by the rook. So from that point of view, I could just go to d3, but in d3 it blocks the queen's view of this pawn, and I might end up retreating back to c2 anyway. So I can get to c2 from this square. Bishop to b3 to c2, queen to d3, and set up a battery trying to attack on this diagonal. And definitely I don't want to trade the knight for that, trade the bishop for that knight. Well, his knight now can jump into c4. So is that good? From c4 it hits these dark squares. I can chase it with b3 though. These squares are covered by my bishop and he just has to retreat. So I think, and I think I should do that right away before he has a chance to open up this diagonal and support the knight coming to a3. I don't want to allow that. So b3 right away. And the knight has to go back somewhere. And now with the pawn on b3, I have bishop to b2, queen to d3, and knight to d2. You know, the knight to c3 is not looking so attractive since he can play b4 at any time, hitting the knight on c3, and the knight goes here. There's an exchange. Not a whole lot there. So I think bishop b2 first, and then queen d3 second, and then knight d2 last, developing the knight and getting it en route to somewhere in the game where it can do something useful. So queen d3 here. If he takes the pawn, I can take with the bishop. Yeah, it's a little too bad. This will kill the idea of playing e4, e5 and chasing the knight away, because after he exchanges here, so I could take, but then that would open up the d file, and so I'd rather not do that. So let's just go ahead and play queen d3. I'm going to have some play against the backwards d pawn. No longer getting to directly mate him, unfortunately, but play against the d pawn will have to do. Oh, he played there. That is interesting. So if I take, is he going to take back with the pawn? Takes back with a knight. Now he's hitting the bishop. So if I play e5, for example, he just takes the bishop, hitting my queen. I don't have time to checkmate him because the knight's still defending. So I need to move the bishop. And well, I'm still covering these squares, but he's got a, that's a good position for the knight. But now e5 is a threat once again. So I will play it. The problem is, yeah, he's got pawn takes. e5, pawn takes. If I take back with the pawn trying to harass his knight, then he can exchange queens. And if I take back with the knight, then this knight is pretty stable here. It doesn't have to move. So knight d2, continuing to develop. I guess there's a threat of taking the knight and winning a pawn here, winning this b to c pawn. So he plays there. So now this allows e5, right? After e5, where can the knight go? The knight can go to e4 to block the mate, and I can win something. No, not really. I can't really win anything, can I? I can take it with the knight. He takes with the pawn, and it's a fork of these two pieces. Take with the rook. He takes with the bishop. I take with the queen, threatening mate. But he has time to defend, and I've just given up the exchange for a pawn. Okay, if I take this knight instead, he can take back with, he has to take back with the pawn. But that's probably a good thing for him anyway. Very interesting. So now maybe I should just move this knight out of the way. And play f3, but if I move the knight, then he can take on d2. So knight h2, knight takes d2, bishop takes, knight takes. Well, actually it doesn't work. As soon as he plays knight takes d2 with the knight on e5, then it's checkmate. So I can move this knight somewhere. Maybe, yeah, maybe to h2, with the idea after f3 of playing knight g4. So if he takes with the knight on the c file, I have bishop takes. And if he takes with the knight on the e file, then I have checkmate. And f3, I think f3 really is a threat then. Aha. Well, I can... yeah, I think this works. So let's see. If I play f3, he plays knight takes, I play bishop takes, he plays bishop takes. play pawn takes, and then he plays pawn takes. And my queen is hanging. Oh, well, I play queen takes bishop. Okay, let's try this again. Knight C. Okay, I play f3. He plays knight takes d2. I play bishop takes d2. He plays bishop takes d2. So he's won 2 pieces, and I've won 1. So I play f3. He can't move the knight. Oh no, I've already played f3. I played pawn takes knight, so now we're even. And if he takes back, then I take his bishop. So he will take the rook. And then I take back. So what would that be? That would be these 3 pieces for these 3 pieces. I'm still just losing the exchange. Because I get those 2 knights and the bishop. Or I take here threatening checkmate, but it doesn't... Oh, he has time to defend once again. Yeah, I'm going to play this anyway. It looked interesting. So let's see how it goes. I mean, I get a pawn for the exchange. Sometimes that's adequate compensation.
Checkmate.
And there's always a chance the guy will take with the wrong knight. Okay, well, that was entertaining. I'm going to upload this and do a postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.